always say yes. Like never say no to something. Like always say yes until it becomes like, you'll know that tipping point.
Yeah, right.
when you need to start saying no to things.
Yeah.
Welcome to Set Life, where we tell stories from our industry. I'm Kelly Leger, and this is Amber Buteau. Hey everybody, welcome to Set Life, coming to you from For the One Studio, Studio One. My name is Kelly Leger.
And I'm Amber Buteau.
And today we have a guest with us, Wyatt Cagle. Welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and you're in for a real treat today. Wyatt has been doing this a little while.
Yes.
And you could say he's a bit of a Jedi.
Yep, we'll be going there today. We'll be going there on the Jedi part today. Yeah, I mean, you're the CEO of South Coast here in Houston production company and have been doing great work around here for a long time. I know it's something new, I would say new, kind of acquired. I mean, 2019 is not too far. But
with COVID, it's just like nobody knows what calendar new old anymore. Yeah. It's like there's 2 or 3 years that everybody kind of just deletes.
And what a time to purchase or acquire a business, especially this business, right before the world changed for forever, the way that we've seen it and the way that it's gone, with the pandemic. So, okay, I think that's where we'll land. But
sure.
take us back to the references that we've all been punning to, which is when you were 8 years old, you wanted to be who?
I wanted to be Luke Skywalker because, just like every kid,
Man, I can
every 90s kid and stuff like that. Yeah, you want to be Luke Skywalker. And then, then I found out that wait a minute, the laser sword's not real. And no, you don't get to fly around, and there's no, there's no Wookiees or anything like that. Yeah, so you just but in researching that, you're kind of I'm kind of taking anything I can and reading anything about it. And then I found out there's this guy named George Lucas, and he's a director and a writer, and these guys at Industrial Light and Magic, and that was a visual effect. What's a visual effect? And you start diving into it, and then you kind of go, oh.
Right. Yeah.
There's a whole world and industry of make believe, and I can be all those things. Mm-hmm. And then I started thinking, I want to be an actor. And then I was a theater kid and did that for a while and realized that is not where I need to be. But after not getting the part, because schools and theaters, they want you to feel involved, and they're like, you're a terrible actor. But you want to run the lights, you want to do the technical stuff, and then I started doing that as a young kid and as a teenager and stuff like that, working there and going oh wait, I kind of like that stuff even more, and getting to sit with the director. And I had some amazing, theater directors that I worked with as a young kid, and they were encouraging me, and they had no one else to talk to, so they were like, I'll talk to this 13-year-old, He's here. I'll tell him about why I'm making these decisions and stuff like that as a director of what stage direction was and why they lit it the way they lit it, and how they talk to actors, and it was community theater stuff. I mean, it wasn't like I was sitting with Steven Spielberg or anything, but still, it's just it gave me this start of thinking, there's something there. Yeah. I, of course, didn't think that you could make any money doing that. Right. So I ended up, pivoting towards computer science and math and some other of my strengths and stuff like that. And that's what I actually started going to college for, was that stuff. Wow. But, after a couple of years of college going I'm just going to be making Excel spreadsheets, programming Excel the rest of my life. This is boring. I'm going to go back to
Pretend land.
Right?
So it's pretend land or the actual literal facts of life, right? Numbers.
But in college, I started, there was a production company that I started working at. Again, just I'm just going to make some money while I'm working in college at this thing. I'm pretty good with the camera. I did that in high school, and I knew how to edit and stuff like that. I figured out that all stuff as a kid. And then I was like, oh wait, you can actually make a living wait, hold on.
Right.
Yeah.
There is a path to making $1 doing this. So it's not an easy path, but I made a path. So then I was like, oh, there's a film program. Let me do that. And it's kind of like jumped off of that ever since.
Wow.
I think it's so interesting to get into your 8-year-old mind for just a minute. I mean, you were 8 and you were like, oh, I want to be this. And then you researched it like at 8. I'm just saying, that's like, that's huge to be like, oh my gosh, I want to be this at 8 years old. And then looked into it and then found a world that you didn't even know existed. And then you dove into that. And that's kind of the root of where your love and passion for this industry started. And I would say that a lot of people that we interview on the show have stories that are somewhere in that. So I encourage you that if you have young kids, like they're finding loves young, you know, that's like true. We hear of the teachers that gave cameras or the teachers that were like, hey, you're really good at this. And, you know, put a computer in front of them. They started editing little things and building things or animation, like all those things.
It's so easy to do now, just to like experiment and try. My son, I have a 10-year-old son, and he's really into Legos, and then he found out about stop motion. I showed him Ray Harryhausen stuff, and I was like, yeah, no, it's just like, this is them moving it slowly, one frame at a time. And we found an iPhone app, like in 5 minutes, we found it, and he built a rig to hold the phone out of Legos, and then used his Legos to start animating, and he does those for hours.
Amazing.
So cool.
And then he'll come back like, Dad, look, how do I sound effects? You know, like he wants to know, you know, like iMovie, he's into iMovie, and he keeps going like, so what do you use, Dad? I was like, well, I use DaVinci and Premiere. I think maybe that's, let's wait a few years before we jump into that. Just keep into iMovie for right now.
Yeah.
But he's really interested in it. And, you know, we just try to keep changing different art styles for him, as well as, you know, the math and the reading and stuff like that. But, but yeah, I just like to keep pushing that creativity. It's just easier than ever. Like when I was growing up, it was like an old VCR that my dad gave me that was broken and I had to fix. He's like, if you can get it to work, you can make, you know, it's yours. I'm like, okay. And I kind of fixed it. And then we learned nonlinear editing with the VCR and the camcorder.
Wow.
And, you know, learned camera tricks of how things popped on and off, and, you know, all sorts of terrible visual effects. But it at least give you the idea of like, this is the foundation for storytelling and filmmaking and how this stuff works, and kind of get your brain working in that way.
Yeah.
And being interested, period, is a huge step. Like showing interest and then going a step further. You know, like being interested, going deeper and deeper and deeper into that, which is what I'm watching you. Mike watching.
Yeah, Mike was way down there. I was just like, that seems low.
I was just about to say, we're going to have to break for a minute, and I'm going to have to go pick that mic up.
Like, I didn't feel it, but then all of a sudden it's touching my hand. I was like,
oh,
that's not where the mic goes.
You know somebody that does production when they know to take their own mic and go, this needs to be here for everyone else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, I also started in theater because it was what was accessible. You know, especially in, you know, that day and age growing up. It wasn't the internet. It wasn't at your fingertips. That's where we were. But like you, and I started like on the stage doing, you know, whatever was available. But really quickly over the years, found myself on the other side of the camera too. I'm like, gosh, you can do so much more here. There's so much more latitude. You're not just this one thing. But I am very thankful for all of those things that I learned along the way. Because ultimately, you know, it made you a good communicator with an actor. Or, you know, I know you do some, you know, cinematography as well. But, you know, that's not where I landed. But just knowing all that made me a good communicator with the cinematographer, with, you know, learning all those things. Even if that's not where you land, you're learning language. You're learning how to describe the thing that you're
What's so interesting about our art form is that it's a collaborative art form. Like you have to have those communication skills.
You do.
You have to have those communication skills from the point of telling your story to the audience, but also to conveying, you know, as a director, conveying your message to your DOP, your set art department and your set decorator, you know, wardrobe, you know, everybody, your gaffer, like everybody has to be working on the same page and understanding like this is the direction that we're going.
Right.
If not, you're going to have 17 different versions of your movie or your commercial or your corporate video or whatever it is. And it's like, well, this feels kind of hodgepodge. Like, yeah, because there was no director on it. It was a lot of talented artists making something, but they were all making something different.
They didn't all have the same vision.
Correct.
And that's what I try to explain to people that come in. You're like, what? I mean, can't y'all just put up a camera and make this? And I'm like, oh, don't we all wish? Don't we all wish? I mean, just today, I mean, as we set up for set life and we change angles and we change things, it's like all of us having the same vision, the same look, being able to articulate that to each other, because somebody's running lights, somebody's doing camera, somebody's setting up the set. So, you know, all the different people have to be kind of thinking the same way. And that comes from somebody being able to articulate the vision in a way that works. But I also say creatives, there's sweet spots in creatives' lives. So like one this is why I think some can just nail horror films. Some can just nail comedy. Some can just nail, you know, like this certain genres, certain looks, the vibes. So that's how you pull the collaboratives together to kind of know they already see in this way and they already see in this way and they've done this before. So you kind of pull them all together to create this one big vision that everybody's looking for. But you get a creative that's like, over here, let's say they make, you know, music videos and all this and their whole world's that. And then you try to get them to pull over in this monochromatic, seamless thing. They're kind of like, we need some more here. We need some more there. Like something needs to be happening. Right. You know, so everybody kind of has their sweet spot. And that's what I love, that each project's different and you pull different creatives together. So it's always changing to create excellence.
That's true.
And I love that in the arts.
Absolutely.
And the differences and all the different creatives that are working on one project.
Also, it encourages you as just a human being to like keep developing yourself and learning new skills and learning about new things, so that you kind of have to, the best directors, the best ones that can understand the projects, like you've lived in it or you understand that culture that you're trying to talk about and talk to. Sure. So, you know, being out there and experiencing life and not just kind of getting bogged down in the technical side of things. I mean, I was that way for a long time of just like, oh, I'm a gearhead and just like, oh, it's all about the camera and just like that. And then you go like, no, it's about what's in front of the camera. It's about the life in front of the camera. It's about that humanity that you're filming. Even if it's for a commercial or something like that, it's still, you're still trying to find that essence of it. And if you're not out there living, like I feel like I'm a much better filmmaker the older I get than I was, even though I don't have as much energy as I used to. Being able to go out there and see something and go like, that's true. Like I can see it and go like, that looks and feels true. And especially if it's something that I know about, like there's like a community that I'm a part of. I mean, one of the best examples of a job that like I didn't get was like for the Houston Ballet. Like I was trying to get that. I was working with an agency that I work with time and time again. They were like, hey, we want you to pitch for this. I made samples, animatics, like did this huge pitch to get it because I really wanted the Houston Ballet commercial. And I didn't get it. And I was like really bummed. I was like, this was good. Like, why didn't I get it? And because I was friends with the producer and very friendly, I was like, hey, well, I'm not mad. I just want to know, like, why didn't I get it? Like, who got it? And they were like, well, we went with this New York director. And the first thing, the Houston chip on my shoulder said, you brought in, you brought in the New York kid. It's like, he's a 20-year veteran of ballet. I was like, he's a ballerina. I'm like, oh, I don't feel bad anymore. And it's a gorgeous spot. They did an amazing way. He could talk to the dancers. He knew what to say. He knew how to film it. Like everything worked because he was a dance choreographer. He lived in that culture. Sure. So I was like, I can't feel bad about that.
No, you can't.
It was a gorgeous spot too. It made the Houston Ballet look amazing. So, like super happy for that. But it just kind of reinforces that. Like learn a lot of stuff, expose yourself to a lot of different people and cultures and see how it is if you want to be a good director. So that you can kind of bring that experience to set.
Absolutely. And you, speaking of a lot of experience, you have done a lot of things. So you went from theater, and then I know you were in the editing world for a long time. And
yes.
Tell me about some more of that journey. How did we get to the legacy of South Coast? Like,
yeah, I mean, that's a long, sometimes boring, sometimes crazy story. I mean, because it did, you know, I came from the Golden Triangle, the Beaumont area, this little town called Bridge City. Like, that's where I grew up, and then moved out for college. Worked at a production company where it was like all hands on deck kind of thing. You're editing, you're shooting, it's, you know, you're doing whatever. Cause it's like 3 of us doing everything.
Right.
And I learned a lot of what to do and a lot of what not to do.
Yeah.
Like leaving that when I was like, I'll never have a business that does that.
Right.
But also some really good, like this is some good kernels to push forward with. And then, you know, moved to Houston because actually a friend of mine went to a company called POV, which was a post-production house when we actually had true post-production houses in Houston. He went to a party and grabbed at this place, and POV was gorgeous. And he grabbed a business card and he was just like, you should call them. And this guy was also in the RTF program with me. And I was like, why don't you call him? He's like, no, you call him. I was like, okay. So I call him and ended up, you know, talking my way into a job interview that I had no business of getting for like a senior graphic designer, no business of going in even for that job interview. The person, Cynthia Wins, who was the manager there, was just like, you have no business in this job interview. I went, nope, just wanted to get my name out there and meet somebody and just say hello and see if you guys would be interested in, you know, if there's anything I can do.
I love it.
And she was like, okay. So then she called me like 2 weeks later and she was like, I have a assistant's position that's been vacant and I want to offer it to you for like the littlest money you can imagine. Which is funny because I ended up getting a job as a DP on like this indie in Austin. So I went and did that and then came back and actually had a plan. Came back to POV and was her assistant for a while. And then they kind of like, oh, you know Avid? Yeah, I know Avid. Like, all right, now we need you to help help the assistant editor do some stuff. Ran the machine room for a long time, and then the assistant editor, you know, she left, and they were like, well, now you're the assistant editor. And then, you know, kind of moved up, and you know, Cynthia and Bill Moore, who own POV, still dear friends of mine even today, and I still get to work with them. Cynthia's like her godson, who is in film school right now. It's my godson. Like her youngest son is my godson, and you know, we just like it's a family. I still work with Bill.
Yeah,
you know,
that's great.
I relate him just like the kung fu master in the movie, stuff like that, where you'd be like, you know, you'd go in there like, I want to learn editing. He's like, sweep the floors. And like, all right, I'll clean the edit suites. You know, it's just like, come back, I want to learn editing. Prep my jobs. Like, oh, okay, fine. You know, digitize off tape and stuff like that. And then just one day,
all of it prepared you to be an editor. Yeah,
exactly. And then one day he just like, I was leaving the edit suite. He's like, where are you going? I built an edit for him. He's like, where are you going? I was like, I'm gonna go do some other work or something like that. And he's like, no, sit down. And he sat there with me. He's like, we're gonna go through every single one of these edits, and you're gonna tell me why you made those choices.
When you were sweeping the floor,
you
were actually cutting.
Yeah, exactly. It was. I think it was just like, is he gonna leave or not? You know, like I'm not gonna put any investment into him if he's gonna leave in like 6 weeks. Yeah. But yeah, no, he went through and started really diving into the psychology of editing and helping me understand of like, you make the cuts, why you make the cuts, where those need to go, pacing, stuff, you know, stuff that I kind of subconsciously learned, or I learned a little bit in film school, but not to the level that Bill brought it. Like, and he's an amazing editor even today. But
that's awesome.
But yeah, just being able to, that's why I hire him sometimes. You know, like, but you know, him kind of opening that up was amazing, which is something that I still try to convey even today, of just that person that's willing to like openly give information about this, because that's how you know, we're kind of an apprentice, a journeyman, you know, a master kind of situation. I think that's where people learn the best in this industry.
I do too.
It's not going to
I agree.
Like, film schools are great, et cetera, but I think that I learned more in the first week at POV than I learned at 4 years at a film school.
Right.
And I learned a lot more on set than 1 year in the film industry on set, I learned way more than I ever did in the classroom. So, it's just one of those things of just finding the right masters that will allow you to apprentice under them. Unofficially, but, it's still, you just kind of suck up as much information as you can.
Totally.
But anyway.
I completely agree with that whole process. I mean, I think that is so great that you had somebody that was able to pour into you that way. We do an internship program here because we believe in it so much to try to put people in real practical situations and then let them create some. I mean, the other day we had some of our interns that have actually become employees here now, just have the studio for a night. And they all came in and were using all the lights and all the stuff and create. Just create, grow, challenge yourself. I mean, but they need to go out into the world and make their mark, on what they're going to add to
make
it.
Mistakes. Make mistakes here when it's controlled and easy versus everybody seeing it. or a paying client.
And cheap,
It's like it's cheap and easy to make mistakes here.
Yes.
So true. So fast forward, Europe.
Europe, that was actually right after, I kind of skipped over Europe.
Oh,
Because I jumped right out of college, had the opportunity to go do this documentary in Poland.
Okay.
And spend a couple of months over there, like working on that.
Okay.
And that ended up being like a Travel Channel Europe show and stuff like that. Didn't get renewed for a second season, but we got something out of it. Again, learned a lot. Opened my eyes because again, being a kid from Southeast Texas, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, you're jumping on a plane with a bunch of gear and not knowing, where you're going and what you're doing. Again, just kind of talked your way into it. And
what an adventure.
And was able to go on this huge adventure and then come back. And that's when the POV thing started. And then, after POV, I jumped from a couple different post houses in town, kind of just growing and developing. And then an opportunity to move to Austin, and then back and forth, was on the road for a long time doing movies, jumping from movie set to movie set, doing indie movies and stuff like that for a while. And then Houston brought me back. An opportunity happened to help start a little video production company that dealt with children's entertainment that we started here in town a number of years ago over that. And, did that for a couple of years. That company got acquired by Michael Eisner, the former head of Disney, and got to kind of go through that as an entrepreneur and seeing how that whole transition happened was
the biz of
was interesting. Again, learning, and I'm in my mid 20s at this point. So just trying to see that and seeing the reality of things and how it all works.
By your mid-20s, that's a lot of production. You got the show, you got the biz, you got the whole, that's a lot.
But the key to that was, that I keep hearing through all of his stories, is the hustle to step out, even if you didn't fully understand or fully know. You're like, okay, I'll make the call. Okay, I'll talk. Okay, I know I'm not really qualified for this.
I'll give Cynthia Wins, who hired me at POV, she gave me some really good advice when she was younger. She was always say yes. Never say no to something. Always say yes until it becomes you'll know that tipping point. when you need to start saying no to things. And for a long time I would just oh yeah, you need that? Yes, I'll help with that. Either it was free on the weekends or whatever project it was. Yes, I will come help do that. I will do that. And
some of the best advice, could just be one word. Yes, that's huge for people. People don't do that enough.
But I think the same thing. I think I did that in the beginning too. You're so hungry to learn, to figure it out. That's that hustle though.
Yes,
I know I'm not going to stay in this forever. I just think that's a mentality that yes meant, like you said, free on weekends, doing it on your own dime, but you're investing, that yes is actually investing in yourself. And you have to see it that way. You know, the problem is I think the younger generations see it as like, I'm doing all this work for free. You're like, actually, you're investing in yourself if you do something with it. You are taking what you are learning here, and it's not on your dime, so to speak. Somebody else is paid to produce it and create it and all of that. You get to learn from that.
You get to see their mistakes.
You're looking at their mistakes, and you're like, okay, I see now. I don't want to do that, and that's going to save me, or how I'm going to move. And then eventually, you're right. You start learning where like, I don't need to do that. This is the direction I need to start saying more yes to. You know, this way. And I need to start saying some no's here.
And I think it's actively having that mindset on set of like, you should be you know, I tell all my PAs, like, you should be a shark. You know what sharks do? They move. They're always moving and looking for something to do. They're always, you know, if you stop, you suffocate, you die. You know? Like, so keep moving.
That's true.
If you need just to take the trash out, if you just need to clean up the set, you know, you just need to keep moving. If there's a department that you really like, I'm leaning towards camera department or grip electric or art department, like swim over there. You know, like they'll put you to work somewhere, especially in Houston. Like we don't have huge, you know, productions that, I mean, we do have larger productions, but we don't have some of the stuff that I work with. I've worked on a few tentpole movies and stuff like that. And those just, they're armies of individuals, and everybody has their place. And yes, you should, you know, Houston especially, like we should understand that there are departments and you don't cross the department line unless that department is cool with you crossing those lines. Because sometimes, especially, you know, it's like, hey, we're wrapping out. Do you know how over and under a cable? Okay, cool. You know, like help us pull everything out of this house because we need to do it. But on a larger set, if you do that, you're going to get your hand slapped by some grip and stuff like that, telling you to stay in your lane. And you can't get mad about that. But, you know, it's just, you know, but actively, you know, searching and then looking for things on set to do, but also be actively looking about, is this director doing, if you were a director, would you direct like that? Like look for those tips and tricks, not somebody pulling you aside and going like, tip number one, do this. It's more of just like, look at them and go like, oh, I see what, that was it. That was an interesting way that she did that. That's true. I'm gonna put that away. Or that is not how I would run my sets in the future, because eventually it will be your set and you will be running it. So take the positive stuff and discard the negative so that you're not doing like bad habits, because we all do that too, of just like bad habits on set.
That's so true. So I know we're getting short on time, but I do want to hear, like, you're going to have to give me probably a shorter version, but I want to hear it. How we got to the legacy of South Coast.
Sure. So we'll fast forward up to about 2018, and I had created CGL Studios about 10 years prior, which is the production company that I was running. And it was growing in the size of agencies that I was working with and the projects that I was being able to direct and work on and stuff like that, to a point where I needed more infrastructure. I needed that larger space to work. And I needed my team. I needed to bring a team together under one roof. Everett Gorell was the previous owner of South Coast, and he was always a wonderful source, a mentor, a great source of information as a director DP, as well as like a business owner, because that was also something like I'd seen a lot of production companies go out of business. You're still around. What are you doing that everybody else isn't? And he was always willing to like give information and kind of give the kind of little nuggets of wisdom. So whenever I was trying to evolve and grow CGL Studios, Everett was at the twilight of his career, and he's like, he's a surfer. He's like, I'd rather be surfing than making videos. So, you know, he had talked with some of the employees that he already had at the company to buy it out, and then I already knew one of those, Michael Bell. He became my business partner, and we ended up going, well, I don't want South Coast. It's a fixture in the community. It's this legacy. I want to keep this going. Let's merge the two companies. Let me roll CGL Studios into South Coast. Let me buy South Coast from Everett, and then continue this resource that that Houston needs. A studio space close to downtown, close to the medical center that a lot of people have leaned on and needed for a long time. So we'll keep that going. Plus we have this wonderful group of artists that all work together really well. Plus I have this infrastructure. It's like I can just buy all this and then kind of leap forward 5-6 years my business plan. What CGL Studios was going to be, and I wasn't locked in with the name. So it's like South Coast. It has the name recognition. It has the legacy. And just to kind of keep his, Everett doesn't have any children. So like South Coast is his baby. So instead of that being kind of like shut down or sold off for parts, we get to continue that on. And he still comes in all the time, and we still get to talk to him, and he gets to see that his company is has grown and is expanding and is, got legs for a number of years more to come.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. That is so great. I love that part collaborated. That's rare, that businesses collaborate together in this industry. And, that's definitely our heart here, is to help foster and grow the community here in Houston, but just the entertainment community as a whole. Any way that we can help support it and grow it. And it's been a big heart of this show, is being able to sit with all of us together and say, hey, how do we help you? And how do we help you? And how do we do this all together and raise the bar in quality and raise the bar in excellence and all of that. Before we got on, we talked about, how we feel strongly passionate about supporting the rental houses around here. Is it things we could get into? Yes. But is it, we want them to grow, because we have a heart to grow the industry and leave a legacy for Houston and the industry in itself. To foster and grow. We know it needs all facets to do that.
Correct.
It's not a one-man band. It is all of us trying to do and move the mark on it.
That's always, people always ask, like, why isn't Houston a film mecca? Why isn't it in Atlanta or in Austin or something like that? And it really kind of boils down to, like, well, we have to look like what a LA producer and line producer, what they're looking at. We have to look like what they want. And what they want is rental houses and studio spaces and union crews and like all those 100%. Things. Because when they come in, we have to make their job easy.
Yes.
They have a lot of stuff on their plate already. So whenever a producer comes in, we have to make it super easy for that they feel like, oh, well, I feel like I'm just back in LA.
Gotta be attractive.
Or I'm back in
Austin. Have that economy and that culture. And we're working on it.
We are. We're getting there. I mean, just in the last couple of years, lots of new things are coming to Houston. Lots of things are popping up, which I'm super excited about and happy to be a part of. Okay, so how does everybody watching get in contact with you, follow you, reach out to you? Where would they go to do that? What does that look like?
You can follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Wyatt Cagle, at Wyatt Cagle on Instagram. You can go to scfilmvideo.com, our website. Contact me through the website. Happy to do that. But yeah, I'm always on Instagram and LinkedIn. So like messaging me is probably, direct messaging me through Instagram is probably the fastest way to get to me.
Love it.
Yeah, that's the world we live in.
Well, listen, I'm sorry we're out of time. Wyatt, we've loved having you here today on Set Life. So I'm Kelly Leger.
And I'm Amber Buto.
We'll see you next time on Set Life.